Welcome back to Impact Podcast. We are glad that you are here with us today. My name is Jeremy Melton. I'm your host, along with Maddie. We've recently had some changes to our show. Daniel has run out of some bandwidth, and he has decided to step down for just a little while, and he's going to take a break. And so Maddie and I are going to hold it down, and we wish Daniel the best. He'll be back hopefully soon. We're going to miss him for sure. He was a key component to this operation, so we hope he returns. He did a really good job for us.
And he taught us a lot.
Yeah.
Because what you just did with the soundboard was wild.
It was a miracle that I was able to do that. So, but yeah, he taught us a lot. He helped us set up Friday night into the evening, and that was exciting. And so we are struggling through the technology part of this, but we're going to get through it. And so last week, well, the last time we met, that's the other thing. So we did have some changes here recently.
You're sitting in the biggest one.
Yeah, let's talk about that first. So we're in our new studio. For the first time, and so we're excited about that. I also have a new job. I'm self-employed now. I turned in my notice in March and went out on a limb and decided to start a company. And so that's why we haven't recorded in a month. And so you have no idea how excited I am to be here because I was so looking forward to this. This actually fills my cup. And so I really, really enjoyed this podcast, enjoy talking about leadership, and so it fills my cup. And so I'm glad to be here in the studio, also my office for my company. That's super exciting. But enough about me. Last time we met, we talked about, what did we talk about last time, Maddie? It's been so long.
I think it was determination.
Determination, yes.
I don't have a key takeaway because it's been a while.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry.
So now we have a problem.
I'm determined to find a key takeaway.
Okay, all right. Well, let me help you because I did look at it. Remember, we talked about we talked about remembering your purpose, and that creates determination. We went through, and if you haven't heard the podcast from last week, go back and listen to it because it's really cool. And I remember teaching Daniel and Maddie, what creates it, and so we spent 5 minutes talking about what creates it, and we got down to what I said was, at least what I was teaching, is remembering your purpose is what keeps you determined. And so, anyway, cool teaching on that. This week, we are going to talk about humility. And so it's one of the mandates. It's one of the more difficult mandates for people. It's especially difficult for me. Some might find that hard to believe, but maybe not. It's especially difficult because it's counterintuitive and it's very, I guess it's elusive because once you figure out that you think you're humble, you're really not. And so it's interesting. I've said that once before. So having said that, we invited Miller McGowan back to teach us today.
It's called determination to have me back on the podcast.
Yes.
Yes, we were determined. So Miller McGowan, if y'all remember, several weeks ago, he came in and we interviewed Miller on his leadership style and just about leadership in general. And Maddie and I got together when Daniel had told us he was going to step away for a little bit, and we were like, hey, we're going to spice it up a little bit. What can we do? And Maddie said, bring Miller back. And I thought, man, that's a good idea. Miller was excited about being with us before, and I think he's excited now.
Even more so, yeah.
And so I'm going to let him teach us today. I'm going to sit back and listen. I'm excited about it. And then next week we've got another interview. But, hey, this week we're talking about humility. So, Miller, feel free to take us away. Now, I'm not going to interject at all unless you ask me a question. I'm going to let you hold it down. And then if you need me to jump in, just say so. I've got some notes here we can talk about. Of course, I love humility, and I think it's hard to attain. But let's go.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to let you get off scot-free. You're going to be doing some talking.
I got you.
Maddie as well. Yeah, no, I'm super excited to be back. Had an amazing time just having that, 1 hour conversation. I knew that when we had that conversation that 1 hour wasn't going to be enough with you guys. I knew I was going to have to do some more talking and just enjoy being in the company of you guys and talking about, something that is very big in my life, and that's leadership. But, very excited that you invited me back for this conversation, because humility has also been a large part of, I think, why I am where I am today. And that's, learning and teaching and finding out ways to be humble. And it's kind of funny what you were just saying, it's that double-edged sword, the moment that you feel that you have become humble or that you have learned humility, maybe you haven't. Maybe that's, maybe that's where you've kind of gotten on the other side of humility. And what I mean by that is, if, for those of you that don't know, that are playing the home game and don't know, humility and being humble, right, it's the opposite of conceitedness. It's the opposite of being overly confident to a fault, right? I do not think that confidence is the opposite of humility. I think if you are humble and you have humility, you're probably a very confident person, because you're confident in yourself. You're confident in your abilities to do the right thing. If you are a humble individual, you more than likely have very good character. Character is something that I strive to have, and I'm striving right now to teach my teenagers how to have good character. The definition of character is what you are doing when no one's looking. And I think that if you're doing the right thing and you are, even when people aren't looking, I think that you almost exude that even more so when you are out in the spotlight, when you're out being watched. And if you have the character of humility, right, it's very hard sometimes, as you were saying, Jeremy, to be humble, to have that humility, because whenever something good happens, let's say you do something great, right? Like, for example, I was just talking not too long ago about my 16-year-old daughter and my 16-year-old son were just saved and baptized at church a few weeks ago.
That got me, by the way.
Yeah. I mean,
video.
You believe me, I didn't have any tears left.
This must have been at the 11 o'clock.
It was the 11
I
o'clock.
missed it.
Yeah.
Dang.
It's all right. There's a video.
Okay.
There's a video.
Okay.
It's
Need to
great.
go back
We
and-
actually watched it in our small group I have a small group Sunday night, every other Sunday night. And it was the same night after that. And we didn't do the small group discussion and watched the video.
Wow.
Well,
Oh, wow.
The videos.
Okay.
My daughter's video will have you crying.
Yeah.
For
and
real?
then followed by my son's video will have you, chuckling.
Right. It was a good.
But they
Oh,
were
okay.
they're very both intelligent individuals. And but to the reason why I brought that up is because everybody was coming up to me telling me congratulations. Hey, proud dad moment. This is great. Proud dad moment. Congratulations. And I'm, soaking it in and stuff. But, I went back and reflected and I was like, but it's not me. Congratulations to me that I'm a father that has, in partnership with my wife, their mother, we have built this household that is based around the love and fellowship of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. We've joined an amazing church. If you listen to the episode, it was Danny Harrell is our pastor. I know he's done an interview on this podcast. So yes, congratulations to me that I have been able to, like I said, in partnership with my wife, be able to build this household where we love Jesus and we follow Jesus, and my children are saved and they're always asking questions. But at the same time, I want to make sure that I'm humble, because it's not me. I mean, I did things. I asked questions. I, tell stories. We read scripture, whatever. But it's not anything I did. It was the power of Jesus Christ. It was the Holy Spirit. And then it was the asking questions, for my kids asking questions and all of this. That's what led to them being saved. And it's great. I want to be humble that, I want to be confident that I have, done those things that led to that, but really it wasn't me at all. So I have to remember that the humility in it is to remember that I wasn't the only one who did it, right?
Right.
And I want to be confident, but at the same time, the grace goes to God, the power goes to God. So, to me, that's kind of humility in a nutshell, right? Is being confident, but not being so confident that you don't give others their prize when they're due. And in leadership, like in business, in my work, I want to make sure that if something happens and our team succeeds, that everybody gets the recognition, not just me.
Right.
Short story about that. So we just are coming up on the end of our first quarter, the first quarter in our fiscal year. And I was just told by my manager that I was the top producing recruiter on my team for the first quarter. Wow. So I had the most hires on our team, the most offers. A lot of my numbers are all right there in the top. While that's an accomplishment for just me, right? Because I'm an individual contributor, I still felt the need to thank members of my team for whatever they did to help me in that. Because I know it wasn't just me. I wasn't working just by myself on those. There would be times where I'd have to ask a teammate, for guidance here or their opinions here, or what do you do when you use this platform and things like that. And it's because my team is always willing to reach out and give their knowledge, that I was able to then take their knowledge and put it to use, which made me the top producing individual contributor.
Right.
So I want to make sure that I'm not in that meeting saying, thank you, I'm the best, right? Well, just because you're humble, it doesn't mean you can't take the time to recognize that you did do something great, or that you were, the best. But you got to make sure to give it where it's due, right? You got to make sure that it. Very rarely are you ever the best at something because you did it,
correct?
Or you did it without help,
correct?
Right? The best athletes in the world didn't get there by themselves.
They got trainers.
They have trainers. They have coaches. They have parents. They have mentors. They have idols. They, whatever. They didn't do it themselves. Right. So it's the people that don't understand that it wasn't just because of them. Those are the people that need to humble up. So, to me, that's why I want to make sure that I'm always teaching that humility to my kids.
Right.
Jeremy, I'm sure, your kids learn the same. I know we had a conversation in the past when we first met, that about your daughter in her workplace, making sure, volunteering to do the hard stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
When nobody else wants to do.
When nobody else wants to do. She volunteered to do the hard stuff. And that's a form of humility.
Sure.
That's knowing that you're not too good, to do the nitty gritty. And in my interview, one of the things that I wanted to make very prevalent about my leadership style was that, I get down on the ground
in the ditch
with my guys.
I remember that.
When I was in the Army, and I was leading soldiers, I made sure that it wasn't just me telling them to do something. I would get down there with them, show them how to do it, make sure they see what I expect. And then that way, the next time, I have that task, they can do the task, and then they get the recognition for it.
Right.
Humility goes really along the line, like almost servanthood. It's like being a servant leader, I think, and humility they all go hand in hand, but those two really go, being able to, like your daughter, it was the Chick-fil-A drive-thru and it was raining and cold and nasty out.
Yeah, 30 degrees.
No one else wanted to do it. And she was like, you know what? I'm not too good for this.
I'm going to do it.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I told her, I said, I want you to find the job that no one else wants to do, that everyone's complaining about, and do it. Mm-hmm. And you build, I call it leadership capital when you do that. Mm-hmm. And so it's no different than, I think at one time I may have told this story where I was the manager of a shop, but on Fridays we would clean, and I would go get a broom and sweep. And I did it intentionally, to build capital with the guys.
Right.
But it was also good for my soul. You want to get humble. Sometimes you have to force yourself to be humble. Mm-hmm. And I can remember, you drive a nice car every day and you walk in these areas every day. It's good to go get in a beater and go down the road and go back. Always remember where you came from, and that helps you be humble. So It's not easy, though.
No, and I think that's why I do have the humility I have, is because nothing I have was given to me. And I absolutely 185%, always remember that.
Yeah.
I have a good job. I make good money. My family is comfortable. We're not rich and wealthy. We don't have a net worth yet, right? Our house isn't paid off. We don't have any other debts, but our house isn't paid off. So I guess, even a mortgage is an investment. So maybe we do have a net worth. I don't know exactly. I'll have to ask Dave Ramsey how that works. But none of that was given to me. I was not inherited money from some long lost uncle that I was his next of kin,
right?
Or anything like that. Never won the lottery. I've tried a couple of times. But, and we tell that to our kids all the time. I know my 16-year-old son is very money driven, and especially now more so that he is 16 and he drives, and we tell them, you're paying for your gas.
Right.
And now, he wants to, now that he can drive, he wants to go eat with his friends and do all this.
Independence.
He wants his
independent.
Absolutely. But I make sure that they know, hey, none of this was given.
Right.
None of what I have and what your mom has and what we have as a family was given to us. It's because we worked our butts off to get where we are. When my wife and I first met, it was right after I joined the Army, and she was still a college student in Savannah. And after we were married, we struggled a lot. Mm-hmm. So much so, I think to buy Christmas presents, we did a title loan.
Wow.
On her car at 87% interest, right? Something ridiculous like that. Luckily, we were able to pay it off pretty soon after that. But, that was just something we had to do. We were living off her student loans. I wasn't making very much money with the Army yet.
Yeah.
But, you like you said, you got to remember where you came from.
That's right.
And that's humility. And I think that there are people out there that are given things, right? But as long as you don't let that go to your head and become entitled, I think entitlement is definitely the killer of any kind of humility.
You just said something, and it struck a chord, and I can't think of it where it is in Scripture, but it actually says, I think it's John chapter 3, verse 27, maybe. It says that no man can do anything unless it's given to him from heaven. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about how you come into the world, you had nothing, and you had to be tended to and taken care of. And then you spend 40 or 50 years of your life working for what you have, and then when you get older, you begin to lose everything again. And then when you die with nothing. You come into the world with nothing, and you go out of the world with nothing. What's different is the middle of the road where your pride and your ego, just like Adam had pride in the garden, wanted to be God. But your pride, you build pride up, and you spend your life needing to beat it down. But if you just remember how you came in and how you're leaving, and the scripture that says, no man can have anything unless it's given to him, period. And so everything is given. That's how you stay humble. Mm-hmm. However, there's such a balance between humility and pride and even impact. You know, I heard a preacher preach a message one time, and he said that impact is, let's think about an airplane and you're flying. Impact is one wing and humility is the other wing. You need both to build anything, to make an impact. And if you, or influence, whichever one you want to use, right? But if you one or the other falls short or falls off the wing, the plane's crashing. And so it's constant dichotomy, I think is what, the word we could use, where you're forcing yourself to be humble yet ambitious. And so that's what keeps you flying.
Mm-hmm. I mean, think about the opposite, right? Think about that person that, or even a group for that matter, that is so overconfident that they think that every success is because of them. Right. So let's say that I was that leader in the Army, and there are definitely those leaders anywhere. I see them in the corporate world. I saw them in the military, that just, they take the recognition and they don't give any back. Right. So they win a competition, it's all there. It's all them. Somebody gives them recognition for doing something great. It's all them. Think about it this way. Think about being a dad, right? Being a Disney dad, as we like to say. Think about the movie Cars. The very beginning of the movie Cars, Lightning McQueen does a race, and he comes in, three-way tie for the Piston Cup, and they got to go do whatever. I mean, you've seen the movie. But anyways, right after that, they're always like, his team, right? The little forklifts that changes gas and changes tires and stuff. He's taking all the recognition. He's taking all of the hype and the success, and saying that he's a one-man show. I think was something that he exactly said, that he was a one-man show, and the little forklift came out from behind him and was like, one-man show, and then they leave and throw this stuff down, and he's like, oh, how am I ever going to find somebody to fill me up with gas, whatever. But his team leaves, right? So what I was meaning by that is, be that person who is constantly saying you're a one-man show, that everything that is great is because of you, and then see how many people hang around. See how many times you have to find new people to hang around and, to idolize you, right? Mm-hmm. So many people, think that they're just great, that they're just that they just exude greatness, and they think that they deserve everything. And I don't know if you paid attention to the NFL draft, but there was a certain somebody who thought that they were supposed to go in the top 5. And I think they got drafted in the 5th round.
I heard about that.
So I'm just, and it was because a lot of people think that, it was just this or that or whatever, but you looked back on it, and it was because of the interview that he gave to all the other teams and owners and stuff. Basically, he just said he was the second coming. And any team that gets him is going to, be the best, and it's going to be, you're going to want to build your team around me because I'm the best. and
got him, didn't it?
Got him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, humility too, I think, going back to like being the one-man show or whatever,
Right.
as leaders, I've run into more leaders who I think don't even know that they're like that. You know, like it's like a subconscious thing that they do.
It's habitual.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's just like, how do you knock it down? Be like,
Well,
hey, remember us?
yeah.
Be the little forklift in the background, you know? But I think that there's a lot of leaders who just don't, you know, their higher ups, you know, say, and then thanks so much to the team. It's like, right, but how did you get to where?
It's interesting because how do you call that out in somebody?
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Well, I think it's unfortunate, but it's always going to be that way. I think there's always going to be those people that do rise to the top by beating others down, and I think it's just human nature at some point. But I'm not above calling somebody out and saying, hey, you know, not necessarily publicly. I learned very quickly in my career to recognize in public, punish in private, or otherwise. So I am not above taking somebody to the side and saying, hey, you know, congratulations, that was great. You're absolutely right. I think you should also give some recognition to your team, or you should give some recognition to so-and-so or whatever. You know, and there might be those people that are just so habitually entitled that that doesn't sink in. Or, yeah, you know,
it's easy to take the recognition, but it's really easy to bring your team in when you get criticism.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So
just, you take the recognition when you do something great, and when you do something bad, you blame it on others.
right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, if they would have done what they said that they were going to do or whatever. Yeah.
I see that in my household between the 5 and 8 year old all the time. But he did this, and but I saw you, right?
This is a good lesson.
I'm the one.
Little,
I saw you do it.
Oh yeah.
So that's why you're the one getting punished, right? But then, I won't. Whenever they clean their rooms, I'll give them the individual recognition. But then when they clean the playroom together, then it's, you know, they get to see the positive. And the same thing happens in the corporate world. You know, you want to give recognition to your team. My current immediate supervisor, my current manager, does it amazingly. And I think it's because she's also somebody that came from humble beginnings, right? To for lack of a better word, we're talking about humility. It's coming from humble beginnings, right? What's the definition of humble beginnings? Is the beginnings of, you know, you didn't come from much.
That's right.
You know, nobody says you came from humble beginnings if you grew up in Beverly Hills with silver spoons and stuff. But, you know, she is constantly telling us how great of a team we are, not how great individual contributors we are, or not how great she is as a manager or anything like that. We are constantly getting recognition from her from being an amazing team. And so, you know, I am usually dishing it right back. Well, we're an amazing team because of your leadership, because of the guidance that you gave us, because you set the example. And
so you're giving it back to her.
Right. Good. And then she gives it right. I mean, it's like a back and forth. Eventually somebody has to go, okay, we've recognized each other. You know, we're all
enough
great.
affirmation.
Enough effort. Yeah.
That's a good team.
But that's a good team. And that's a culture that she built within our team.
Yeah.
Right. And
so how many people do you see that they say, I'm going to aspire for humility, yet they get it wrong? Yeah. Like, I guess what I'm getting at is, you know, somebody that might hear the word humility, they may be listening to the podcast, and they may say, okay, well, tomorrow I'm going to work, and I'm going to think less of me.
No, I think that's counterintuitive.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so correct that.
Yeah, so it's not putting others before yourself, which absolutely, you know, I think that you know, the people that are out there that are humble don't put themselves down.
Okay.
Right.
Good.
Don't say that, I'm not as great as everybody. Still give yourself the recognition, right? Still say that you are great.
Yep.
You're good at what you do. Because if you keep putting yourself down negatively, saying everybody else is great, but I'm not, that's not humility. That's self-doubt.
Correct. Okay, good.
And
good.
and it's I think humility is I'm good at what I do because of XYZ. And it's just you have to remember that you're not good at what you do because you're just God-given talent at whatever, right? There are people that have God-given talents in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But to enhance those talents is because you got something from somebody else.
So it's not, and I heard a guy say this once, so I don't get any credit for any of this, but it's not
That's very humble of you.
Thanks. It's not thinking less of yourself, rather it's thinking of yourself less.
Right.
So, and I don't know where I heard that from, but I did. It wasn't something I come up with. So, but not
quote unknown.
Yeah, I don't know who it was. I listen to so many people, but not thinking of yourself less of yourself, rather thinking of yourself less. And that's
good.
It's like put a bow on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anyway, I didn't mean to derail it.
I mean, if you came out and said that the success of the Impact podcast was all because of Jeremy Melton,
I'd be
right?
lost.
Yeah, exactly.
Without
I'm
Maddie.
pretty sure Maddie wouldn't be here very much longer.
No, she'd be like, "Screw you, I'm out."
I wouldn't have signed on to do. I might not even signed on for the first interview, right? Much less coming back to help do this. But I mean, but that's where it is, right? But be proud of your success.
Oh yeah.
Be when your new company gets off the floor and is up and running, I know it's going to be a success because I know you and I know that what you're going to do is going to be great. Mm-hmm. But it's not going to be just because of you, but you can absolutely, revel in that success. I think you should absolutely take the success and take the recognition and have pride in yourself to an extent that you're not being prideful to a sin, right?
That's like confident. Like you were talking about that earlier. Like confidence isn't a bad thing.
Right. It's absolutely not.
And also confidence is kind of, what do you call it? Like contagious. Mm-hmm. So like when you're around a bunch of confident people who are, excited about work or whatever it might be, and it kind of like exudes it back to you too. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just like with Jeremy. Jeremy's confident in what we do with the podcast. He's been confident that it's going to be successful and things like that. How we measure that success, we don't know yet, but I think sitting in this little studio is pretty successful. Yeah. But like his confidence in that or any task that we've done together, I'm like, all right, I'm confident too. Yeah, like, let's do
absolutely.
it.
So Jeremy, what was it? And I'm excited to hear your opinion on this. What? Because I think you're humble. I feel like I've talked to you enough. I can tell that you have humility. What is it that's made you humble? I don't know a whole lot about where you came from or anything like that, and I'm not asking for you to give us your life story all of a sudden, but there's something that is Jeremy's reason for being humble, for having humility, and I'd be interested to hear that. I think
so. Now I'm being interviewed over here.
Absolutely.
Now you're in the hot seat.
Yeah.
Well, you wrote the mandates, right?
And I wasn't ready, but
good. Neither was I every other week before now. So, how's it feel?
I love it. Actually, so good stuff, Miller. Thanks for asking. A couple reasons, and I wasn't ready for this, so I'm just going to wing it here. The number one reason I would tell you that I pursue humility. Well, I would say I have three. The number one reason is that and this is not a religious podcast, but as I'll tell you, I'm in pursuit to be like Christ. Mm-hmm. Okay? That would be the number one reason that I'm humble. Well, I seek to be humble. I can't say I'm humble because that's not humble.
Right.
I seek to be humble because I want to be like Christ. And so we're called to be Christ-like. That's the number one reason. The number two reason would be that I am a leader and that I know when I have followed leaders in my time as a follower of someone or anybody, if they were humble, I was attracted to that. And so in order to build my leadership capital, I seek to be humble. That would be the second reason. So the first reason would be to be Christ-like. Mm-hmm. The second reason would be to build leadership capital so that I can have influence over my people. And the third reason is because there's a lot of scripture that says that humility attracts God's favor. And I believe that the favor of God is necessary on the follower's life. Well, maybe it's not necessary, but it's a whole lot better with the favor of God. And so that would be the three reasons that I would say that I seek to be humble.
Yeah. So do you think that you can be humble do you think, let me see if I can phrase this right. And this can go for both of you. I'm interested to see what you both feel about this one. Do you think you can learn, how is humility only learned by seeing somebody else's pride? Like, so if you've never had anybody be so proud that they leave you out of the recognition, right? So if I helped somebody do something great and they take all the recognition, I'm going to be pretty down. I'm not going to feel great that I wasn't given any kind of that recognition, right? So then I don't want to be that person. So I learned humility, that I always want to give recognition where recognition's due, right? So
you're saying that carry on.
How do you think humility's learned? Is it only learned through seeing examples of pride, or is it learned by seeing examples of humility? Or, I mean, is it something that's only learned? Can you just be humble?
No.
No?
No.
That was quick.
Yes.
No.
I say yes, absolutely.
You can't be humble.
All right. Good debate.
You can't just be born humble.
No. No.
Do you think we're born prideful?
Yes.
You think our nature is
100%.
pride? Okay.
Yes. You're born in sin.
Right.
Right.
And if you look at children, that's how pride, so children, go ahead and throw some kids out there and watch what happens when we put them in a room full of toys.
That's true.
That's true.
It's in your nature to survive. Mm-hmm. And pride does that. It's not in your nature to share and be humble. Now, I think it's 100% learned. And I guess you would say that it's learned. I don't know how you're kind of on the spot. I'm on the spot here, but I think that it's learned. It's not, you're not born with it. And there's a lot of reasons we could go through the Bible, and I could tell you why I would defend that. But nonetheless, is it learned? Yes. How is it learned? Probably through pain and doing without. You begin to learn, first of all, you're taught by your kids, by your parents, some of that. And then as you grow older, you follow a leader, and that leader teaches you that. And I think you go through life learning what is good for you and what's bad for you. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, it's that balance between the ambition that you have and the humbleness that you need to keep it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's experiences.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it could be someone, being prideful to you, or it could be, having a wonderful leader or someone in your life who was very humble and you want to be more like that person.
Or having a terrible leader.
Right.
And you want to be
So
absolutely
it could just
nothing
be
like that person.
Either way.
I think I think that where I was getting with that, and that's why I wanted to get y'all's opinions, is because I wanted to see where, I think some people are probably in the boat of you become humble because you want to be absolutely nothing like the prideful person that you see. And then there's the side of I want to be humble because I want to be like the humble person, right? I think a lot of it has to do with where you came from. You know, a lot. And I think a lot of stuff comes from where you came from. For me, it was seeing the humility and the humbleness of my grandparents, right? And then how they made all of us, you know, feel, and how they recognized us, you know, and then just came up through seeing how they treated each other, seeing how they treated everybody else. And then you want to be more like that, right? You wanted to, because you want to make somebody proud of you, right? And I think that that's where you're saying that's just our nature. Our nature is to survive. Our nature is to be the best. Our nature is to be proud. Yes. But at the same time, you have to remember where you came from. And for me, my humbleness comes from that, comes from seeing my grandparents, comes from seeing my aunts and uncles, comes from seeing everybody that has contributed to that. My brother, you know, was just elected mayor of his town out in Missouri. And what was great about that was he didn't just automatically say, I got elected mayor because I deserved it. I got elected mayor because I was the best one for the job. The first thing he did was he contacted the person he was running against and said, I want you on my team.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
You ran an amazing campaign. I'm so surprised that I won. And I know the kind of servant that you could be to our community. I want you on my team. How can we get you to serve? And then he basically just, you know, stepped into the team, and he's taken over another job.
That is super special.
Cool. Yeah,
but that's the first thing he did.
Think about that.
Yeah.
In anything, any kind of competition, especially a political race.
Yeah.
But to reach out to the person that you beat and bring them in, that's a strong leadership.
Yeah. He thanked his community, right? Because obviously they're the ones that elected him. But then he thanked the person he was running against and got him on his team.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that in itself, you know, me being 41 years old, I don't think we're ever too old to learn more. And and I've known him my entire life. Wow. I've known him for 41 years, right? And when he told me that, I was blown away.
That's very cool.
I know he's an amazing person. I know he's a very humble person, because he's a lot of why I am who I am.
But he's secure.
But very secure.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's when he told me that, I was like, man, wow, that's huge.
Yeah.
That is.
So that's humility in a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
I think it's just going back on it. It's just, you want to remember where you came from, remember how you got to where you are, remember that you didn't do it by yourself, and you give recognition where recognition's due. And if I can, there was one, we were talking about scripture. You know, I just wanted to say one quick one. This comes from 2 Corinthians 12:9. 2 Corinthians 12:9. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is perfect in weakness.
Oh, wow.
And what I got from that was that, you know, leaders don't have to have it all together. God is going to use his weakness and is going to give you strength. It's going to use that weakness to give you strength. And I think that humility should never be thought of as a sign of weakness. Don't ever think that because you didn't get where you got on your own does not mean you're weak. Right. I think that humility is just it's a strength, and it's a gift from God.
Yeah.
For absolutely sure.
That's good, Miller. I love it.
Very good.
Yeah. Good teaching. Yeah. Anything else? We're good? We're rolling on about 45 minutes. So
Humility is still the hardest mandate for me.
Oh, yeah. No,
I've said that from the beginning.
You know, before we stop, you said that weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest with you. At that time, I thought, no way. It's not the hardest one for me. But when you really study it and you really look at it, it's probably the hardest for most people.
And it's not because I don't think that I'm humble. I think that I'm humble, or I try my hardest to be humble as I'm being humble. But I think recognizing, you just get into the day-to-day things, and it's like you kind of have to stop and just take a breath and really focus on what you're doing rather than just going through the motions kind of thing.
Right.
And I think that's where my humility goes away, because I'm just, not that I'm like, thank you, it's all about me.
Yeah.
I'd never say that,
Yeah.
but I don't necessarily give recognition to the people who help me.
But I don't think that humility has to mean, like, I don't think somebody that is considered humble, right? Like, I consider both of you humble people, but I don't think that you have to be humble. You don't necessarily have to say that you're humble, right? I think that that's almost not being humble in a way, right? Because if you're calling yourself humble, there's going to be somebody out there that's probably like,
that dude's not humble.
Right.
Remember, it's an attribute.
Right.
And so you focus on the attribute, and you can, I don't want to say attain it, but you can have more of it. And then if you don't focus on it, you won't.
So maybe that's where I'm, it's an attribute that you can have, and then you can focus on it and get better at it.
You're right.
Or you can just keep smooth sailing.
Because I think the fact that you struggle with it is a sign of your humility. I think that because you want to be humble, you think that you could be more humble, you think that you could have more humility is almost a sign of your humility, right? You know that you could give more recognition, right? You know that you are confident in yourself and your abilities. So, I think that's a sign of your humility. I think if you are coming out here and saying, I'm the most humble person in the world, and it's because, this so-and-so did this, because, I think that that's almost a sign of, it's not humility. If you're coming out and saying that you're the most humble person, or you are a very humble person, I think that almost kind of downplays your humility a little bit. I think you probably have the idea of what being humble is and what it looks like, but I think it's kind of prideful in that statement, is saying that you're
intentional.
Yep.
Yeah.
What about, so you could think about this, entitled. So that would be pride.
Yeah,
someone that's
absolutely.
entitled, the opposite of humble. They're entitled. And so I heard another guy say one time, you can be entitled, but Jesus came to detitle.
Ooh.
Yeah, I like that.
So
I'll have to write that one down.
Yeah. So again, I didn't say it, but detitle. So, and you remember in his ministry, he walked the earth, and that's what he did. He went around telling the Pharisees, you guys don't even have it figured out. He detitled everybody.
Right.
And so that's the kind of the way to look at it.
Yeah.
You're not entitled. And I tell my kids all the time, you are not entitled to anything. You came with nothing, you get nothing. And don't expect anything. So in fact, you're detitled. And so when you look at it that way, it's not that you want to compartmentalize it, but you want to focus on it and be detitled.
Yeah.
That's the answer. That's how you do it. Now, there's 100 different ways that fleshes out, but anyway, just
we could go on and on and on.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah. No, I think, somebody said it, I think our pastor said it, that when you walk into a room, you want people to look up at you and say, that guy's a Christian, that guy's a follower of Christ. But if you come out and you say, I'm a Christian, I'm a follower of Christ, look at me, I can quote all the scriptures and blah, 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 you're not humble. So what if you walk into a room and somebody says, hey, he's humble?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, you can exude it.
Dude, so earlier you asked why, the 3 reasons that that's what I want to be.
Yeah.
Really. I want to be that guy. And it's so hard.
It is very
It
hard.
is so
I think
hard.
you are that guy.
Well, I don't know. It's so difficult because here's the thing. You can be an entrepreneur and a leader and run the world, right? But you have to balance because a humble guy is not going to, I don't know. I don't know.
No, I see where you're going.
It's a dichotomy, bro.
I see where you're going.
It's a dichotomy.
You can't be afraid of being confident.
Correct.
You cannot think that I want to be somebody that's humble, therefore I cannot have confidence in myself. Because I 185% believe that if I have to do something on my own, I'm going to get it done. Mm-hmm. If there is nobody that can help me and I just have to do it on my own.
Like building the fence in your backyard.
Like building a fence in my backyard. I would not have been able to get that done had my wife not taken care of the kids, so I could be outside, Okay. But no, if I had to do something on my own, I could absolutely do it. I have confidence in myself that the experiences that I've learned in my life, I could absolutely take care of what I need to take care of. Mm-hmm. Am I going to do that easily? Probably not.
Right.
Am I going to... Would it be a lot easier if I had somebody in my corner helping me, leading me along? Absolutely. So don't think that to be humble, you have to be unconfident, that you can't be confident in yourself and your abilities. I think that's a big thing. Humbleness is remembering that you didn't get where you are by yourself.
Right. That's right.
Confidence is knowing that you can do things that you need to get done yourself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know I am confident that I would get things done easier with somebody else.
Right. That's good.
Yeah.
Miller, thank you so much for leading today.
Absolutely.
I'll be honest with you. I really enjoyed this session. We've done, this is number 19 or 20. I didn't even say that when we started,
19.
by the way. It's 19. So I should have said that. But we're figuring out our new studio. We're figuring this out. Daniel's not here. Our lifesaver, Daniel's not here. So he's going to hopefully listen to this later and laugh. But Daniel, you would laugh really hard if you seen me trying to work this board and the mic.
Well, good thing we're recording.
Yeah. So. But look, I really enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed being questioned. I think that was
cool. I
cool.
threw that one at you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
I told you I wasn't going to be the only one talking.
Dude, you made me think for a minute. I really did like it. I'm serious. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah. I mean that from the heart.
Anytime, I said. Thank you.
As it stands, man, rock solid teaching on humility, and I appreciate you. Maddie, you got anything? Closing comments?
I'm good.
Yeah. Thank you,
Miller?
guys. I'm great. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.